Good morning, everyone. I'm really glad to be here and to see all of you. Oh my God, it's so many people here. This is really exciting for me. Bastian, thank you for the introduction. And yeah, I'm originally from Chicago, so go Bears. But I came to Germany 23 years ago to start my first e-commerce business. And I've been doing e-commerce actually in Germany and internationally for the last 23 years. My last station here in Berlin, and why I'm living in Berlin, is I was CIO and acting COO of Berlin Brands Group, which you might know here in Germany. Today, I want to talk with you about customers and brands. And when I got here, I was able to walk around and I saw all of these stands of really fascinating companies that are all here to help you. And most of the message that they're bringing across is, hey, customer and brands are really important. You can go out here and I'm hoping that I can motivate you that it's so important to invest in your customer experience and in your brand. And I'm going to give you some tips and tricks today about how to do that. So it's not just about cost. And we're going to get into that. I've got 5 points that I wanted to discuss with you today. The first idea is, what is sustainable value? What is that actually about? The next one is why do I need the ability to create sustainable value, especially in e-commerce? Why is it so important for everyone in e-commerce to be able to create sustainable value? What do actually customers and brand have to do with it? How do I invest in customers and brand to create sustainable value? And finally, I want to talk to you about what the benefits of those investments are. So before we get started, I really like to make sure that we're all talking about the same thing. And I've already introduced a lot of different topics, a lot of different words. Let's start with value. And when people talk about value, they're generally like, oh yeah, that's profit. But is it profit? What is profit? Profit is actually something from a completed transaction. I made revenue, it covered my costs, I had something left over, that's profit, but it's in the past. Is that really what creating value is about? And I would say no. Actually, when we talk about value, we want to talk about the ability to create future profit. And that's a skill that we want to develop, and it's something that we want to invest in. Well, investment, that's actually the next word. Everyone knows investments, and they think about CapEx. They think about, oh, that's a warehouse. That's a building. Those are trucks. That's where I have to spend money. But I want everyone here to think about investment in a different term. Investments are expenditures meant to generate future profit. So if we have value is the ability to generate future profit, then investment actually enhances that. And I have a thesis. Investments in customer and brand, they're actually the catalyst for future growth. But you might ask yourself, do I really need to focus on creating sustainable value? I mean, I've got day-to-day business. It's really a competitive world out there. And I say, well, let's look at that for a second. There's you and all of your competition. You have tools and infrastructure that you're using to do your business, and you're also tackling customers. But you know what? Your competition has access to all the same tools. They're doing the PPC marketing. They're doing everything the same way that you're doing it. And you know what? They're actually going after your customers as well. So it's a really competitive market, and it's also increasing. What impact does that have? And I bet that all of you are experiencing this right now. It adds pressure to the top line. You have price pressure, your prices are going down, and there are people attacking your market share. So you're actually making less revenue with the same money that you're spending. And then at the same time, everyone is doing the same thing you're doing on the marketing side, so your PPC spending is going up. You've got revenue going down, you've got costs going up. That's pretty scary. So if you don't decide to go and invest in creating sustainable value, what happens? We already said your contribution margin is under attack. at some point, it reaches the point that it doesn't cover your overheads anymore. You know what? You're making a loss. That's not good. So what do? You start going out there and you cut costs. You cut costs everywhere. You just say, oh, I have to cut costs. I have to get that back in balance. But what happens when you do that? Your service levels go down. Your customers are having a poor customer experience. On top of that, you make more mistakes. Things that worked before aren't working because, you know what, you cut the budget. You're not covering that. There's no one responsible for that anymore. When you continue, you say, wow, less customers are buying. My market share is going down. I'm going to do the next step. I'm going to cut prices and I'm going to attack the market. Well, guess what? You cut your prices more, you have even less money. It continues, your losses increase, and at some point, you can close the business. Who wants to be here and close their business? Because that's what a lot of the actions that you're doing right now is leading towards. I like to call that the downward spiral of death. But you know, there's actually a solution against that. And I want to go back to my thesis. And I want everyone to really think about this. Value is the ability to generate future profits. And by doing that, you preempt the spiral of death. You're thinking about how will I make money in my market, how will I make more profits tomorrow, not what's going on in the past. Not every business allows you to create sustainable value, and there's some things to think about when you look at your own business. Can I really create sustainable value? Let's talk about a few things how you can look at your business model and evaluate that. Because you really want to know, do I want to invest? Is it worthwhile for me to put money into this business to invest in my customers and brands? Now, zero-sum game, if you don't know, it's really simple. You're in your market. Let's say there's you and a competitor. And you're dividing up, and you both have 50% market share. In a zero-sum game, another competitor comes in, and they actually take away some of your market share or take away someone else's. Because it's a zero-sum game. The market's not getting bigger. This is what you really want to avoid, and you want to identify it in everything that you're doing. Now, there's two ways to look at it. We're going to look at market development, and we're going to look at customer repeatability. With market development, really simple. Is the market that you're in growing or shrinking? If it's shrinking, that's probably a good sign you don't want to invest in it. But you can even look and say, is your market share growing or shrinking? If your market share is shrinking in a growing market, you have other things that you need to look at. Now, customer repeatability is a core element. And the first question that I ask is, do you know who your customers are? And it's not just about demographics. It's not about psychographics. It's about, do you know how customers are using your products, your services, when they buy it? Do you know which need that they're satisfying? Do you have that information? Are you tracking that? Are you investing in understanding that? The second point is do you have a portfolio of products where the customers have something to buy a next time? Or is it just a one-off? Is it something somebody buys and then they forget? Do your products are something that they would recommend to friends or family? Can you actually generate a second piece of business out of that first purchase? That's what you need to say. That's customer repeatability. And when we go into investments now, it only makes sense to invest in these elements when your business model works, when your business model fits. So let's go into investing in customers. Now there's 4 areas investing in customers that I'd like to talk to you about. The first one is NPS. We all know NPS. NPS, Net Promoter Score, is that neat little question that's asked after you do a purchase. How likely are you to recommend this brand or this product to friends and family? Well, if you're not measuring NPS, start immediately. But it's not just about measuring NPS. You want to actually get into the data. Your most valuable data is the feedback, the written feedback that people are giving when they detract, when they're not going to recommend because they had a problem. And if you get people, if you get your customers to give you information about where they're not happy, that's the most valuable that you have. But going in and really not only understanding what the customers are saying, but reacting on it, that costs money. I'd like to make you understand that that is an investment in future growth. It's not just a cost position. The second is invest in people. Your customer service activity is one of the most important activities that you have. And if you want first contact resolution, that people, when they have a question or a problem, they're getting a solution straight away, you have to train. You want to have those customer service being the most, they're representing your products, your brand, and they want to help the consumers. Training costs money. If I just look at it as a cost position, guess what? I'm going to cut it. If I look at it as an investment, I'm going to continue to spend because it is the key for future growth. Investing in tech. If you don't have a CRM where you're getting a complete view on what's going on with the customer, then you really need to get that in place. Customer interaction is key. And finally, you want to encourage loyalty. Repeat business is what it's all about. You want to make sure that you're rewarding customers, give them something back for being loyal. Have a structure for loyalty. Invest in that. Spend money on that. It's really important. So 73% of customers say that their experience influences where they buy. That's a lot. But 49% say that they don't get a good experience today. That means that your competition also isn't doing a great job on this, and that's an opportunity. That's where you can excel. Something else is also very important is what keeps the customer from coming back. Bad employee attitudes, unfriendly service, untrusted company, unknowledgeable employees, and inefficiency. 3 elements of the top 5 reasons are related to your people, your customer service. That's why you need to invest in that area. Untrusted company, we know that keeping, and I'll get to the brand investments in a moment, that is on the branding side. And inefficiency, where most people say that's the most important, it's only on number 5, that's good operations. What's more concerning is 1 of 3 customers who actually are convinced of your brand. They love your brand. They would recommend that brand. When they have one bad experience, they say bye. It was nice knowing you. I'm going to go. I'm going to find something else. You have to make sure that you're watching this. Now, investing in the brand is a little bit different. I spoke before that you want to understand who your target audience is and get beyond the classic demographics and psychographics. You want to get into understanding how and when they're using your products. The second is you need to make sure that your brand can differentiate yourself. It has a USP. If you don't have a USP, you don't need to invest in the brand because you know what? It doesn't matter. The 4 V's, it's really about purpose. More and more consumers want purpose when they're interacting with the brand. And brand guidelines is really a prerequisite for making sure that your brand is being communicated solidly. Brand integrity that people talk about, it's when all 4 of those elements are together. But the most important point I want to make, generic brands don't stand for anything. There's no value in that. And investing in a brand that's always changing, communicating in different areas with different style, it does not invest in your brand. No purpose, no chance. 62% of customers have said that they stop buying when their own values don't match that of the company. More importantly, 94% of global consumers says that they want companies that engage with companies with a strong purpose. Those are the messages that are there. Make sure that you have a brand, that brand has a purpose, and then you can invest in that brand. 4 factors for brand trust. The first element is cost. Of course, you don't, if you're in a multi-channel environment, don't sell things for different prices to different people in different channels. Your consumers figure that out, and they really don't want to see that. They don't trust you. They're like, well, oh, I might have an offer the next day. The next element, experience. Why do I say that the user experience is so important, and why do I even take that out of the brand element? because that's what keeps customers coming back. Quality of products. If you're just on a one-off method to make a quick buck off of selling a bad quality product, your business model is not going to survive. E-commerce is not just about making a single transaction work. You have to get the brand in place, and brand only works if you have quality. And finally, consistency. Every time you communicate with the customer, every time you show your brand, you have to be bringing across the same message. Very important in that consistency is also messaging around your purpose. Consistent brand presentation leads to more revenue. It's so important, and you have to invest in that. You can't just kind of do it. You can't cut resources there. You want to add resources in strengthening your brand. Now, what benefits do these investments bring? Brand price premium. If you Google it, you're going to find so much research. It really does exist, and we all know it from our own behavior as well. If there's a brand that we believe in, we're willing to spend more for those products. That is the brand price premium. That's where you want to get to. Because if you remember, if you don't have a brand and you have this competitive environment, there's pressure, competitors coming in, there's always people driving on that. This is a great defense mechanism on protecting your price levels. But you can only reach it if you have a believable brand and a believable brand message. Second point, it lowers customer churn. By focusing on the user experience and focusing on the customer service, you're going to get customers to stay longer. That also helps. High repeat business. A lot of you might be watching this and saying, oh my God, my business model is a single transaction business model. I don't have repeat business. You need to get there. Because without that, you will end up in the spiral of death. Lower variable cost of sales. The more selling that I'm doing that is not on acquiring a new customer, my sales are going up, but my variable costs are staying the same. So the costs per order are going down. Lower dependence on performance marketing. Interestingly enough, and there's so many tools out there to help you optimize performance marketing. Performance marketing, though, we have to remember the people that are selling you those ads, they have a really, really good business model. And they will keep on selling. The prices will keep on going up until you have zero margin. Because you know what? Your competitors are also going to invest in that. And it's going to keep the bidding system. The whole idea of bidding system is to take away every last cent of your margin. You have to kill the dependency on performance marketing. If you manage all these things, you've invested in your customer user experience, you've invested in creating purpose, consistent brand, you become resilient to the spiral of death. You can fight that. And these investments, and think about it as an investment. Think about when you're spending money, is this solving a problem of the past, or is this going to enable my future growth? So, summary, check your business, see if you're already in survival mode. Are you already in the spiral of death? And stop. Stop the spiral of death. Identify where you're involved in zero-sum games, because unless you're a monopolist, you're not going to be able to win that. You're going to lose that game. Customer experience is king. You want to focus on NPS, getting the right people in place, having the right tech in place, especially complete CRM where really all interactions are being combined, and you want to make sure that you are rewarding loyalty to your customers. And finally, your brand needs purpose and it needs consistency. That pays in to bring your brand value up. That is brand integrity. And then you have the ability to get the brand price premium. A great brand is a story that never stops unfolding. I really like this, but I think it has to be extended. If you leverage investments in your customer and brand, then you make sure that that story won't end and that it can continue to grow and the story can continue to be told. Thank you.
Hello. Thank
Hi.
you. Hi. I just have one question. Once you go through this spiral of death and you have had a shitstorm happening in your company.
I'm sorry, I can't understand.
Hear me? Hello? Now? Yes. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Okay, sorry. Once you have gone through this spiral of death and your company has gone through a shitstorm, and your customer happiness, let's say, is really low, what do you recommend to go back on track to a healthy relationship with your customers?
So if I understood correctly, you're in the spiral of death, you're already kind of low, customer experience is down. What do you do to get back on track? Start with that first step, invest in your NPS. NPS gives you the fastest feedback on what's bothering the customers and get people on to start solving those problems that the customers are having. That, an increasing NPS is what tackles that the most. So if I would say if you have a team, get everyone working on NPS. Because if you have a low NPS, you don't need to be investing in customers and getting new customers, and you definitely don't need to be investing in your brand.
The question answered? Okay, yeah, thank you very much. Over here.
Hello. Thank you very much for this. A lot of very good information. Just one thing. I think the model that you spoke about is more focused on brands that are already built and they're already out there. Let's say I'm starting a new online shop and without being exposed to PPC or investing a lot in PPC, people are not gonna know about us. So I don't know. I'm just giving a note and would like to hear your opinion about what is the strategy that best suits a new online shop rather than an already built brand. Thank you.
So I actually think that it's the same strategy for any part of the life cycle where you're at. When you have a new brand and you're building up a new brand, you have to make sure that you have the fundamentals of the brand, what you're communicating, what your brand, the 4 V's, what the purpose of the brand is. You need to make sure that that's there and defined. You have to have a brand USP. When you're starting new, it's sometimes easier because you can define that. Before, I think that a lot of brands that started, they do that without having a USP, without really knowing how am I going to differentiate, and they don't have a purpose. And it's really difficult to shift that in if you've created a business model that doesn't have that at all. So keep in mind, you need a differentiation, you need a clear purpose, make sure that that's communicated clearly, and then on the other side, when you have your first order, you have your first transaction, it has to be the best experience for that customer. That's what you have to make sure you're doing from the first transaction, then they recommend, then they bring your influencer. And you also have to think about, when you're creating something new, customer repeatability is your key. Because without customer repeatability, you're going to fall into the PPC trap.
I would like to ask, for instance, if I, as e-commerce owner, is going to some area where there are a specific leader with a huge power, what the best strategy would fit in this area to conduct a business and to bring value to customer and to me as an owner?
Let me see if I understood, because the acoustics up here are really difficult.
Competition with leader, some company with a great position in market, and I understand that I need time, need resources to get to this area.
Okay, so it's about, I'm going to the market, there's someone that's in the market that's really big, I'm small, I'm starting. How do I tackle that? Well, you know, it's a really good point. The big players probably have difficulty on their purpose, on their differentiation. You have to start with the differentiation. Often the way to attack someone is because it's classic disruption. You have to find an area of the market that they're not really paying attention to and do that better. And from there you upscale. But you have to find that one element where you do something better than they do, and you have either a lower cost structure, you have to have that competitive advantage. If you don't find that, they will beat you.
The opportunity of second movers, I guess. But yeah, more questions. Like this is your chance, like to get private mentoring here publicly. Yeah, perfect.
Hi, sorry if I'm repeating something because I came in towards the end. I just want to know for a company that's maybe, like you said, starting, compared to one that is already established, what importance would you play on digital marketing while creating a budget on the services? So, how would you kind of how much would you emphasize on the importance?
So I would always say digital marketing is here to stay. Everyone is going to do digital marketing. Make sure that when you're starting a new business that you have a business model that has repeatability in it. So when you acquire a customer, they're getting a great experience and they will come back again. You really want to make sure that the business model works. When the business model works, then you can invest more in the digital marketing. But you're creating a future revenue stream that is not dependent on paying additional digital marketing to take place. That foundation, that element should be a core of every new e-commerce business that's being started.